Okay, welcome to podcast, a reimagined series, live and direct, recorded at the Mzuzu University, inside the Department of Environmental Studies or Forest and Environmental Studies.
Forest and Environmental Management.
Environmental Management. All right, you're with me, Dennis, and my co-host, Bridget. Litete. All right. For those that have been following this Reimagine series, you know we've been exploring different issues, mainly to do with our society, our lives, and everything in between. We are actually looking at how different things that we do as a people contribute to how we live, contribute to what happens in the environment, and also contributes to our economic activities. One of the major things that actually contributes a lot to how we live, how we stay, is our forests or the environment in general. And we are here today to discuss a very critical issue that shapes our lives and shapes our future. Sir, can you introduce yourself if you are to be given a chance to tell people who you are? How do you introduce yourself?
Okay. Thanks for having me on this forum. In the first place, I am Francis Kamangadazi, the current head of department for Forest and Environment Management. I've been here for almost a year or so, and I'm privileged to head the oldest department in the Faculty of Environmental Sciences. So, being mindful that I think this program is youthful, and me, myself being a youth, I'm glad that you're having me on your forum. Thanks.
Exactly. And it's a pleasure to have a youthful person as the head of department in one of the oldest departments in the faculty. So it's a huge honor that we can sit down with you and explore some of these things around forests and around the environment in general. Bridget, any words of introduction?
Well, I'm Bridget Litete, the co-host for today, and sometimes I'm also the host for the podcast.
Okay. Yeah. Great. So to begin with, one of the issues that has proven to be a challenge, according to our understanding or according to our prior research to discussing this thing, is an issue of how we're losing huge parts of our forests, mainly to issues to do with cooking activities. We know we use trees or vegetative cover for a lot of other things, but we realize that cooking is one of the biggest, I think, contributors to depletion of forests. Can you share with us your understanding or whatever statistics that you may have on how much we are losing, whether it's annually, on the forest covers that we have had ever since, and what are the efforts of trying to regain those forests from your understanding?
Okay, thanks. I'll refer to the National Forest Policy of Malawi. The National Forest Policy of Malawi states that as of the year 2016, we're losing around 250 hectares of forest annually due to deforestation and as well as forest degradation. If we are to convert that statistic, it is around 2.8% of forest cover being lost annually.
Yeah.
To which I think 2016 is I think around 5+ years ago, which may mean even currently we have new statistic, which I don't have.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's in general. But suffice to say that for some parts of the country, they are losing the forest at unprecedented rate as compared to other parts of the country. For instance, as the year 2019, Luanda Forest Reserve, when it comes to quantifying the carbon, it was around 55 tons of carbon, unlike the Pericase, which was around 66 tons of carbon of the forest. Just the difference of around 10 tons when it comes to forest conversion, it's a lot. Yeah. So, like I'm saying, it depends as to how parts of the country, or I could say regions of the country, depending on a number of factors, the forest cover is being lost. I would say maybe the northern part of the country is losing less, or over the years has lost less. I think maybe some of the factors that might have contributed is maybe there is less population, unlike maybe the south, where with reference to what I've just given about the Rwanda Forest Reserve losing a lot as compared to a forest like the Pericase. But I'm in the know that the Department of Forestry, I think in collaboration with the Modern Cooking for Healthy Forest, have been conducting a series of forest inventories, to which I think currently they might have a new statistic, which I'm not sure as to what would be the current status regards to the conversion rate of forests to other forms of land uses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you have talked of the north losing less than the other parts of the country because maybe there's less, the population is not much compared to the southern population. But also in conversations like on television, on the internet, we also hear that natural disasters like the cyclones also they lead to the loss of the forest. Could you maybe just give insights on how the natural disasters also have an impact to the forests in the country?
Okay, that's a good question. I think we might have all come across this information, like you've put it, to say natural disasters are affecting forest cover. Of late, or I should say from the previous rainy season, we saw that the most parts in the south, they experienced a lot of flooding, which might as well affect efforts to restore forests. There are a number of projects that are being undertaken, I think, across the country. But most definitely for parts that were most affected by the floods, definitely, if you plant small seedlings, definitely you lose them. We saw buildings, big trees being lost. The catastrophe we experienced in the Soji Hill. Yeah. So if you are to plant small seedlings, definitely you will lose them.
You lose them.
Yeah, you will lose them. So really, the natural disasters are affecting the efforts to restore the degraded or deforested land. It might not just be, in this case, we're looking at from one angle to say maybe there was heavy rains and whatsoever, but there was also the extreme end. Up here in the North, Karonga experienced a long spells of drought.
Yeah.
Which means if there are efforts to restore through planting again, it means all the seedlings that were planted during that time, they might also be lost. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's from both ends. It's either extreme drought or extreme heavy rains, something like that.
Okay. And when you look at the situation, I made an assumption as I was studying this conversation to say cooking contributes a lot to forest cover.
For sure.
Was that assumption true? If you could share, what are the other major causes of forest loss that we have, and then maybe we can independently look at those, like, okay, how dire are the situations, or what's the need like that we can't do without those type of usages for the forest?
If I were to start with cooking itself, I think with our background as a country, I think of the 20 million plus people who are in this country, the majority of us use wood, fuel wood for cooking. Yeah, it's either fuel wood or it's charcoal. So really, cooking is one of the main factors that would say would lose the forest. The statistics that I was giving earlier mainly is attributed to conversion of the forest into charcoal or just wood for cooking. So, and for the most part, really, cooking is contributing a lot when it comes to conversion of forests into degradation. I should point out to say, other than cooking, like you were suggesting, we're developing. Yeah, heavy construction in Longwe. Yeah. Up here in Zuzu City is also growing. There's a demand for timber. Yeah, so other than cooking itself, the demand for timber for most developing countries is high, which may mean that even if we're saying we also need these trees for fuel wood, we also need these trees to give us timber for construction, homes, schools. Yeah. However, other than timber, we can also talk about the tobacco industries. Yeah, tobacco itself requires a lot of wood to be cured. Yeah, so the major forex earner in this country is tobacco.
Yeah.
So if, for instance, I'm not sure about that. For instance, if the majority of the tobacco that we produce requires curing, it means loads and loads of wood will be required to be used in the curing of this tobacco, which may mean, other than maybe just saying cooking is contributing a lot to conversion to forest degradation, it may mean that even production of tobacco might be contributing even much
than cooking
itself. Talking about timber itself for construction, it might be contributing a lot, even more than cooking itself. So maybe there is a need to strike a balance, do a thorough research as to, is it really true that cooking in itself is the main contributor to degradation of our forest or deforestation of our forest, something like that. So I wouldn't want just to give it a conclusion to say it's just cooking. Yeah.
Okay, you have talked of cooking, yes, the demand for timber and tobacco. So, and these are the factors that keep on contributing to the loss of our forest. Yeah? If we are to reimagine these practices that we are doing in our country, how can we reimagine this for us to be forest friendly so that maybe we can conserve the forest in the country for the better of the future?
I think I would as well give my opinions based on each of the things that we're discussing. For a start, if we're talking about cooking, which is a major discussion in this forum, yes. I've come across information, or I've participated, or I've taken part in some meetings that are talking about alternative ways on how people could have ways and means of heating in their homes other than just cooking. So that's where issues of alternative cooking methods are coming. I gave an example about the USA is supporting the country. I think the Department of Forestry, they have a project which it's called Modern Cooking for the Forest. They're advocating for use of alternative methods of cooking. Talk of Litete, which uses sliced wood. They're talking about briquettes. Yeah, they're talking about use of gas. Yeah, but the rate, or if we look at the numbers that might have access to use of gas in this country, it's on the lower side. The pace at which we are trying to use these modern methods, I think we're still taking baby steps. Yeah, maybe 5-10 years, maybe. Then looking at even the agenda 2063, maybe by that time we might have some specific outcomes that we would say, okay, we're happy with the rate at which the efforts that we're making to move away from relying on trees as for cooking. Yeah, so in that regard, maybe I would say that would be one way of reducing the dependence on trees for cooking. In terms of, I've talked about timber. I think currently there are other methods of producing or construction. You talk of use of steel. Yeah, I've seen around towns, the roofing itself, people are using steel.
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe that's also one way. The other way is producing of bamboo. Yeah. Here there's a project in Zaranyama which they're producing, I think, bamboo. I think, if I'm not so sure about that, but there are efforts that you can use bamboo as an alternative to relying on to produce the same products that timber would have given. In terms of I talked about tobacco production. I think I wouldn't say that would have an immediate solution, because really, if
it's the backbone of the country,
Exactly.
It's more political than it looks, right?
Yeah, not just more political, but we need to be realistic about it, because if in a family we say we rely on doing pieceworks, yeah, the parents do go to do pieceworks and they bring food on the table, and then suddenly we're saying you can no longer go do piecework. Then what are we going to do? So I think we can't just say tobacco go, but we need also to make the efforts that are being done. Like, for instance, understand the government is trying to promote the mining industry, yeah, which would as well contribute even much more to our GDP. Yeah, we're talking about tourism. Yeah. I think yesterday I saw on the Facebook, if at all it is a very fresh post by the Minister of Tourism. The minister herself was on the news talking about Likoma. The Anglican
the cathedral,
yeah, being the largest, and then you find that the largest cathedral for the church is on the island.
Yeah.
And most of us who haven't been there. Yeah, so maybe that as well, when talk tourism. And I see other posts on the Facebook, people like, there's a lady, I think, that posts out travel
with Mervis.
Yes. She's doing a good job, a commendable job, selling our country out there to say, Malawi is beautiful. You can come visit and you could still earn something out of it. There are countries that are hugely dependent on tourism, unlike a whole and then seedlings for tobacco. Yeah, so because majority of those that produce the tobacco, we still use human labor.
Yeah,
it's not mechanized fully. There are a few estates that are mechanized, but the most part of it means human labor. Yeah, so wouldn't say that we should neglect this part, but the efforts that are being made, maybe putting more effort into that area to say, okay, here's what we could do. And I almost forgot issues to do. There was a launch by the president to do with carbon trades,
carbon trade, yeah.
markets. It's a niche. It's a vast area where I think if we really dwell much in it, we would find ourselves that we're earning more, unlike just saying conserving. Yeah, because I think for the most part of our conservation is we want to say water catchment, preserve water catchment. Yeah, we want to preserve them for the purposes of wildlife. But if we even conserve or preserve our forests for carbon markets, it means we could be earning something without doing anything. Yeah, you sit there and then you plant trees, you conserve what you have, then the country would be earning something which would be contributing to our GDP, something like that.
All right. On tobacco, you said we cannot completely say we should let go of it because some people who labor there, they depend on it for a living. Now, going back to the ones that cut down trees for firewood, there's some other people in rural areas, they do that to sell so that they can earn a living. But we are here fighting against this so that maybe we should conserve the forest, yet someone is doing that activity depending on it for them to find money to feed their families and whatsoever. So if we are, let's say 10 years from now, we have completely stopped those people from doing it and they've like listened to the law and they've stopped doing it. Are there like alternative ways that they can use maybe for them to make a living, or maybe living for them will never happen?
Okay, that's a good question. I would say that forest and man are intertwined. Yeah, we can't separate them. So there is no way we would say you would completely stop using. But the current policy provides that the government would enter into co-management with communities. And there are several projects that have taken place before that advocating that communities do conserve forests that are living adjacent to. So these forests are twofold. The ones that are state-owned, the state forest reserves, or the forests that are appearing on customary land. So there are guidelines to which help in communities to still use the forest. But it's the type of usage now that we're talking about. It has to be sustainable in quotes. It's sustainable use of the forest so that the next generation will as well be able to use the same. Yeah, so under these guidelines, there are specific strategies that have been lined up as to how then could the people use the forest at the same time. If in terms of benefits, what benefits can they get? What could be the limitations to say, okay, if you are earning this from the forest, how best then can we sustain it? At the same time, also looking at what would now the state, the policy holder, benefit from that. Yeah, so that in the end it's a win-win. Yeah, the state making sure that its citizens can uplift their livelihoods by depending on the forest, and the forest also being conserved by the communities. Yeah, so it's a matter of looking at how best now do we improve these strategies, these guidelines, because it's a no one size fits all. Different locations, different communities have their own needs. So how do we inculcate the needs of the communities into the policy, so that in the end, really these people do feel that they are part and parcel of the forest to which they live adjacent to. They have to own the forest first, because if they don't have that mentality that the forest which is in their locality is theirs, it means they would still at some point say, okay, this was about maybe some project, then we've stopped. Thereafter, that's it. They leave it for you. They leave it for Dennis and his project.
So in owning the forests, is it easy to get the communities to own the forest? Of course, most of these forests that are really protected right now are protected by the government. And most of the freehold or chieftaincy lands and whatnot, you only find trees where there are graveyards. Most of the lands, people are just farming in them and whatnot. When you start a project like that, or if you get people to say, okay, this forest is yours, are you not telling these people to, you can go in there and do whatever you want, it's your forest? What's this ownership like for them to actually understand what you're saying than giving them a permission to do whatever they want with the forest?
Okay. What I'm putting across here is it's not something that is from the blues. It's been happening, and it's happening because, like I'm saying, if you stop by the Department of Forest headquarters, you would meet individuals or responsible officers who would as well give you the same version I'm trying to put across here, to say there are areas that they have engaged the communities, to say, okay, how do we best conserve the forests that are in your locations? One of the primary projects that I was talking about co-managing with communities, there was the Chimariro Forest Reserve. There is the Ngindekimo, I think that's in Karonga. There is the one in Machinga. I've just forgotten the name. There is one in, I think, parts of Nchisi, the Nchisi Forest Reserve. Yeah. So in Machinga, it's the Rwanda Forest Reserve. There's another, I think, there was another in Chukwawa and Sanje. In all these sites, I think there's the one that I mentioned about Chimariro that's in Kasongo. All these sites, they have had the experience to engage the communities to say, how best do we do this? And it is these models that now they are being extrapolated to other areas to say, okay, since we've had successive stories before on how we could do this, or in some certain circumstances, they weren't successful at all. How best then do we make sure that we still engage the community to say, even though we failed in the previous projects, then how best do we do it now? So you find that even communities also articulate the things that they feel they didn't go well maybe in the previous projects whatsoever. So it still has to be a dialogue, an engagement to say, as we move forward, how could we be improving the strategies, the guidelines on how best we conserve our forests, than just say, okay, since we failed, then that's it. Yeah.
But are the efforts yielding results when you sit down and look at the problem that's there and the efforts to try to solve it with all these strategies, co-ownership of forests and tree planting, which we'll also have to discuss in depth on how that is coming up? Like, are there results that we can hope, or it's time to sound the alarm and say, okay, guys, wait, let's sit down again. This is not working. Maybe we need to come up with new strategies.
I would say it's been yielding positive results, even though in the downside of it will still be there. But we cannot rule out the good things that the efforts to have the engagement with communities to partly on what's in their locality. Because the moment we say, since we failed and then we've stopped, then who's going to take care of the forest? Because I think in democratic world, there's no way that one would come in your house and say, I'm managing this house for you. I'll cook, I'll wash, then I'll go. Then I'll come back tomorrow again. You start raising questions. Do I own the house, or is somebody owns the house? So still, there's no way we would say we'll they will roll out to engage communities regards management, or not just community, but the public, in terms of managing our forests, I think it will be disastrous.
Okay, how do the communities that maybe you have worked with, or the communities that you have approached before, how do they respond to this? Do they accept it, or maybe do they feel like you are there to make their life harder?
Like I said, it's not a one size fits all. Each community would react differently, or in terms of the projects or any efforts that are being done. Some would welcome, some would say would partially, some you would see that maybe by the end of the day, the efforts that was made didn't yield the intended results. So it's 50-50, it's both ways. For some, it's been successful, but for some, maybe it hasn't.
Okay, let's go to tree planting exercises. Every year, there are tree planting periods that are officially launched, and people are encouraged, and all these things going on during the period. Come the other year, the same thing happens. According to your research or statistics that you have, how much trees are being planted probably annually, and how much of that is being sustained to a point where they're actually growing? Do we really have forest cover being regenerated, or it's futile exercise that's going on and it's just like a cycle that keeps repeating itself?
If I'm not mistaken, last planting season, I think the Department of Forestry was trying to plant around 60 million trees, or if not, if it's for this coming season. I'm not so sure about that. But yeah, to come back to your question to say, are these efforts yielding positive results? I would say they would. But it still goes back to at what rate or how are we doing it? Because I think the most pronounced tree planting exercises that I think the nation or the public sees are the ones that I think are done in very small bits. Say at a school, maybe at a church somewhere or something like that. I think, but for the most part, these tree planting exercises are done in most either primary or secondary schools. However, from my understanding, each and every district has a district forest office, which they do have their own. They do have their own plans as to how much they would want to plant, and they also have to report as to how much they have managed from the previous planting seasons. And these are reported now, I think, at national level by the department. So they are published by the department. For now, I don't have the figures, but I think, like I've said, if you check with the authorities, I think that are managing the Department of Forest, they would be able to give you that statistic. But so if you are planting at a school, for instance, around Zuzu University, you find that in some portions that we plant, areas or locations that are usually patronized by people. So, for instance, around campus, maybe we plant somewhere over a week or so, we find that there is the open air discourse. Yeah. So you know what happens at open air? It means the trees would go.
Be trampled on.
If it's in a primary school, you find that some places that we planted these trees, it's where the kids do play football. Yeah. So they wouldn't mind about the trees. Yeah. So we find that you've planted maybe around 200 trees. You lose them all. But the sections or from the locations that the various district forest offices or various organizations are planting are not in the public, because the forest is out there. It's not in the towns necessarily. It's not in our dwelling places. Yeah, we go out in the bush to do the planting. So the most trees that are being sustained or are being that can easily be managed are the ones that we're planting out. And suffice to say that the other part that maybe we haven't done much on, maybe it's trees outside the forest. The trees that are appearing in our farms. Yeah, if I plant trees in my field, you would hardly find that those trees would be trampled. Because the moment that somebody does that, it means it's more personal now. Yeah. It's either we take each other to a local chief or authorities for some redress, something like that. So the forests really are the ones that we plant from the places that most people feel that we planted here, but the trees are no longer there. I think it could be a very small percentage as compared to the trees that are being planted right in the forest. If we were to go in the Vipsha, the Chikangawa itself, which is the largest man-made, I think, in the country, you find that the authorities there are planting a lot of hectare year in, year out. Unfortunately, I think for some parts, or some also feel that they can burn, burning the trees, which is very unfortunate. But you find that the efforts that are being made, you find large portions of the forest being replanted. If that was not the case, it means by now would have run out of trees, I think. But the efforts done right in the forest do contribute much higher than just planting in very small areas that the majority of us feel we're not doing that much.
Okay. You have talked of trees being planted mostly by maybe schools at a certain area. For the public, maybe there's some people out there who wish could be like involved or could contribute their efforts towards this tree planting, but they do not know how they can do it. Do you just maybe wake up today, I want to go and plant a tree at Chikangawa? Or maybe what are the steps that they need to take for them to contribute to be involved in this tree planting?
And before you answer that, let me add on taking personal initiatives to actually contribute to tree planting, whether it's at home or personal gardens and whatnot. Would there be, or are there any incentives that actually pushes people to feel like I need to go and plant a tree? Because we hear all these messages. I'll take myself as an example. I don't think I've planted more than 10 trees in the past 10 years. If I look back at myself, to be honest, trees
does not deserve to be on.
I don't think. I know last time I planted trees was last year because it was a plot, so I went to plant. But I would plant vegetables, this, that, but trees, and I think there could be a lot more people that are like me. What could be an incentive that pushes someone to say, I need to go and plant a tree?
Okay, first with our question. There are several individuals as well as organizations, I should say, that are participating in tree planting exercises. As a department, we are working with some local organizations that's based here in the north. That's Nika Development Trust. They are very eager. They are local chiefs. They are just people of goodwill that are very interested in tree planting. They are going as far as I understand the Rikoma. They've been to Chitipa, parts of Rompi, Mzimba, just to motivate people to plant. And as a department last year, we supported them with we have a small nursery at our backyard. Which would produce some seedlings for research as well as for outreach programs like that. So we support them with some seedlings which they planted. We're also planning to do the same this year. Yeah, like I indicated, they would also do it with schools because we want to have the kids to assimilate the information to say, okay, Nzuzu University is taking part in tree planting exercises. We could as well do it. So last year we planted at some local primary school here. It's called Doroba. Mm-hmm. We also planted with another primary school at Lupaso. Yeah, where we invite the authorities in the city as well as maybe the traditional leaders to participate. That's just to show our public engagement, to say, okay, if anyone is interested, we could do a little that we have share with them, because it's not that we do everything, but we could support a bigger number. But the little that we do could support various schools as well as small communities, like I've indicated. But to come to the question to say, what could motivate somebody and say, I should go and partake in tree planting exercises? It also goes with your own personal interests. Yeah, I think just like some do go for soccer, football, some are for music, some are for arts, drama, something like that. So even if it comes to the tree planting itself, it also has to come, it has to be intrinsic in the first place. Some could be motivated by the efforts like I'm putting across. If the whole university is engaging in such activities, we could as well do it. Other than that, the presence of the Department of Forestry has in some ways been in collaboration with various stakeholders or local NGOs to motivate, and there have been incentives that individuals have been given to participate in tree planting exercises. I think talking about the department, I've had the experience of what under the MASAF project, during the close to the rainy, once the tree planting season is opened, our communities are engaged in either tree planting or just to go and do weeding in different forests, and in the end they get a little something. I think they used to be around for 12 days or so, if I'm not mistaken. So it is those initiatives where you know that if I just wake up in the morning and go plant 5, maybe 10, I would get maybe 1,000. Yeah. And if you're looking at our earning capacities in this country, the majority is below 1,000. Yeah. So if you're earning 1,000 or plus, it means you're motivated to say, I think for the next 12 days, I'll survive. So it also comes at a period where I think hunger is usually on a higher, because I think the levels at which one can go and say, I'll fetch for my family. The fields, rains is coming, there's nothing in the fields. You only have very small chimanga. Yeah. Right. So in the end, you find that people are motivated to say, I think if I go participate in the tree planting or in the just managing, I'll earn a little something. We move. The other maybe bigger projects that have involved communities, I think, to do small clubs. I remember, I think, back under another project, there was an EU project where communities were being advised to have small clubs, and it was those clubs that they would be earning something, which they would either try to buy tree planting materials. So you talk of seed, water cans, polythene tubes for the next season, and then for the rest of the monies, they would do some local local, projects. For instance, maybe they would build maybe a school block, something like that. So the motivation to gain or for individuals to come and say, I think I can do this at that level, at local level. I think there have been several efforts to help them, and usually it is associated with the individuals earning a little something for their daily living. But for the city dweller,
yes, because that's my biggest concern is the city dwellers. Yeah. People like me, we feel like we're busy, and sometimes we don't feel like we are interacting enough with the environment than people that usually go to the garden. They farm for 2 hours and they'll look for a shade. They don't see any trees. Now they start feeling like we had trees here that would go under a shade, sit there. But for us, we're always like on the move, and we don't pay attention to those smaller details. We're probably the ones contributing more because the charcoal that we're using in town are being taken from the rural areas into town. We're using charcoal to cook. We are the ones building these houses that are demanding timber into the cities. But for us to take part in these activities, we also feel like there are people that are doing it for us somewhere. We don't probably contribute finances to the activities. We don't even go to plant. Could there be a way that just entices a city dweller, youthful person, boys, girls, to really be forced or could be forced or be enticed to say, no, wait a minute, I think I need to do that because have you tried to explore how that could be?
I wouldn't want to lie on that, but I think my own personal thoughts would be, I think, as much as we really are not participating in the tree planting efforts or just conserving, I think I would say one can try to participate by, in the first place, trying to have the usage of, because in the first place, like you're saying, the majority of this wood goes to the city, charcoal, whatsoever. So if in the first place there is a deliberate effort to say, okay, how best do we help the city dweller to as well have the methods of cooking or heating in their homes at affordable rates? It would help to say, okay, maybe I can participate. But you find that when you compare maybe the price of the briquette and the price of charcoal, you'd say, maybe I should still go for the charcoal because I can afford that small
jumbo
Walkman. Yeah, I can buy and then I would still cook and eat. But for the briquette, they are being made or being produced by, I think, companies that
are packaging them in a specific way.
Yeah. So one would say, I think the best way I can do is just go behind my house. I would find my neighbor is in charcoal business. I can buy from there and we can cook. So if there was even that effort to say, how best do we attract this individual to still buy from the standard product? Because it also goes with the levels at which charcoal and the briquette, the comparison is the durability. If I lit fire from charcoal
and from briquettes, which one lasts longer?
Lasts longer. Yeah, is that. So if we're talking about the gas stoves, which I spoke earlier to say they're also being advocated for in the cities, you'd say, okay, they are bringing in the smaller
3 kg cylinders,
but still find that maybe it's still on a higher side.
Yeah, because it's like the cheapest I've seen is 35,000 Malawi kwacha.
Yeah.
And how many people can actually take out 35,000 at once?
Yeah.
And then they'll start thinking about refill, which is about, is 8,000 or somewhere about there.
Yeah, so maybe it's a matter of the maybe the policy being made to say, okay, how best do we really make it possible that even the individual that's living in the towns can afford to buy the 3 kg cylinder or whatsoever. The other thing is maybe we're talking about like I think I'll give an example of the Lilongwe. I've noted that they are trying to make the Zalanyama as a place that people can go visit, like a
tourism attraction.
Yeah. So maybe because the town is twofold. There's a part where it's for the lower
class, and then city center is for the affluent.
Exactly. So maybe for this group that is living in the best parts of town, there could as well be efforts to say, have you ever visited Zanya? Have you ever visited Kaningina Forest Reserve? Have you ever visited Sochi? Where there was this
that happened.
Yeah, just you go there and then just to appreciate and see how things are happened or happening. To say, if you go to Zalanyama, you will have the same experience that one would have if they go to the lake. Yeah. So maybe we don't need to go to the lake. You can go to Zalanyama. So when you go to Zalanyama, you contribute something. Yeah. When you contribute something, it means it could be maybe those could be levels that could be now be channeled into the other programs to say now the other half of the town where they cannot afford to have the gas cylinders that these guys, they can as well have the briquettes. Yeah. And at the same time, at the rate at which these, maybe the licenses for production of briquettes or the alternative methods could as well be made to say, okay, just as we're giving these licenses, but even the processes, they could be made in a manner that even locals can have a specific license to say, okay, here's your license. You could be making briquettes. You could be making whatever you would think is an alternative method for cooking, which now the authorities now could advocate and say, okay, one of our own in our community is doing ABCD. Let's buy from them. In one or the other, maybe would say people would have the interest, the zeal to say, okay, if this is being done by one of our own, then maybe let's be part of it. Those are my thoughts.
Okay.
Let me just catch a little bit. Dennis talked about this tree planting exercise where they're saying that when people plant trees, you go back 2-3 years, they're no longer there, and you give answers to that. You also said that you as Mzuzu University, you have seedlings at the backyard where you go to schools, you go and plant. Do you ever maybe like after planting, do you go back to those schools to follow up on the trees that you planted and the impact that you left or at those schools that maybe since you went there, you planted? Are they able to, let's say, adopt that behavior of tree planting that they came to plant for us? Let's also plant. Let's continue with the behavior. Or maybe they're just like, Mzuzu University, they came to plant. That's just because they wanted to plant. They'll come again if they want to plant again. And to these trees, if they're not growing, we do not have to be maybe like take care of them. Have you ever followed up on that?
Yeah. Okay. Interesting to say that I think for the few schools that I've been to, they want to own it to say, let's be doing this annually. But now we cannot just focus on few schools to say, let's just do with few. But we also need to reach out to schools that are around us that we haven't been there. But we really do go back to say, okay, how have we done with the trees that we planted in the previous seasons? For instance, we've been to, like I indicated, we've been to Doroba, we've been to Lupaso. I've forgotten the other school that I think we visited, but we do engage the authorities in this cause to say how best are we moving forward from the previous seasons, and in addition to say would want now them to produce their own, not just to rely on the university that who would provide them with seedlings in the subsequent seasons, because we also need to reach out to other schools. So yeah, we're trying to strike a balance on that.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, it's been some time of this conversation. I think we need to be winding up, probably because I've stolen much of your time with your engagements. We know students just retained, so it should be like a really busy period. But very, very appreciative of your time that you have given us. In conclusion, I would want you to tell us, as you're explaining what we could do about the incentives and whatnot, I went back to the issue that you had mentioned about carbon trading. Do we have carbon levies in Malawi?
So far, I don't have.
We don't have
an
that.
answer on that, but I should think maybe we have, but I'm not so sure. Maybe.
So, as a matter of concluding, do you think coming up with a strategy where us urban dwellers who consume more could contribute through carbon trading and offset the carbon footprint that we are creating in town, so it impacts the communities, whether coming up with our own agents, carbon agents that say, okay, whenever you purchase this, there's so much that you need to contribute, and that money is whether it's with the Department of Environmental Management, and then it's like distributed for tree planting exercise and whatnot. Do you think that could work?
It would, because I think that's what the government is trying to do. If I remember pretty well, like I said, there was a launch on the carbon trade by the president.
Yes,
and I would think the guidelines and strategies that they would want to take, they want to take that trajectory to say, amongst ourselves, how best do we come up with solutions to say, if one is producing trees, if one is conserving trees, how do we support them so that they continue with that? And I would also think there was an engagement of the local leaders, I think, on the same front, to say they want them to be part and parcel of conservation of forests as well as the environment. So the efforts that could be made in to say, let's come up with a carbon levy. Personally, I would think it would really be a good idea, because by the end of the day, each one of us is contributing. Yeah. So unlike maybe if we are talking about the anti-smoking, I don't want to go much into that. Yeah, but for this one, we know for sure that each one of us is contributing. So if I'm told that the carbon that you contributed, you should pay something for it, and then in the end, we channel it towards efforts to say, let's reduce our consumption of the forest or the trees. I don't think that it would be one of the solutions to the current trends.
All right. Thank you so much. Anything, Bridget, in conclusion?
No, I think I've exhausted all my questions.
All right. So to put you on the spot now, if you are to reimagine a future with everything how it is now, and you're looking at, let's take the government goal of 2063. If everything is how it's going now in 2063, what do you see?
Okay. The efforts this far, I think, would achieve the intended goal. It's not just the Agenda 2063. We also have the Sustainable Development Goals, which we are looking at where our friends would be. Yeah, the countries that are around us. So we wouldn't say we'd want to be the bystanders, to say you can continue. I think when you get there, you tell us what you've done. I think we also by then I would think we would have made big strides in regards to how best we can manage and conserve our trees and forests. Additionally, I think with the revision of policies and whatnot, it also kind of helps to address some of the issues that are incoming, to say, okay, if there are new things that are happening in our country, which the previous policies haven't really do not cover on them. I think it would be in the best interest to say, every time there are new issues regards the management of our forests, let's incorporate them in the new policies so that the public is aware. At the same time, even advocating for the policies. I think I'm glad that your forum, your platform, it will be a good thing to say, okay, since we're in this, take it out there to say, because this forum is not for somebody who is in the village. It's for someone who has access to
the internet.
So if we just put it there, what is the forest policy talking about? What is the environmental policy talking about? All other policies that are pertinent in regards to managing our forest. You put them there so that one or two would just read and say, oh, okay, this is what's happening. And the few efforts that are also being done to say, okay, there was this issue, there was a launch of ABC, there was such and such. You put them there, maybe, and even these sort of interviews where you invite the authority, the top,
about what's going on.
The top management to say, come to our forum, because I think this forum is for the youth, like put it. So even they see the top officials on your forum to say they are talking about it. One or two might be influenced to understand as to why we really need to talk about this, because man and forest are one.
Thank you so much. Man and forest are one. And that's how we conclude our conversation with Mr. Francis Kamangadazi.
Precisely.
Head of Department for the Department of Forest and Environmental Management at Mzuzu University.
Sure.
It's been a pleasure having this amazing, wonderful conversation with you. From me, Dennis Imani, make sure you subscribe to our podcast, Podcastmalawi. Make sure you like and share this conversation. If you know anyone who loves this conversation, make sure you tag them in the comment section. Let them know we have had a very, very insightful and important conversation that will live forever. We'll look back at this conversation 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now and say, we discussed this. Look at where we are now. Maybe if we had listened at that particular time, we wouldn't have been here, or we'll be celebrating that, oh, he said it, we listened, look where we are.
Yeah.
Bridget, can we sign out?
Yeah, we're out. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.